Hello. I'm gonna try to get through this without using any explicit language because I'm angry. Got the window open in the background, waiting on it to storm. I always like to get the cool air, so that's fun. Let's adjust this a little bit. Today's about Pearl Abyss and how they're stupid. I've been reading through patch notes. Um, you know, I had a lot of thoughts about it. I was considering coming back to BDO. The idea was to stay away for 30 days and get the returning player rewards. Probably make a season, but the development company, Pearl Abyss, BDO overlords, whatever you want to call them, that's what they seem to act like. They've proven time and time again that they have absolutely zero clue how to design mages. We're gonna see one of two things happen, and there's gonna be no in between. You're gonna see, and you can kind of see on the screen the wizard slash witch caster nerf that happened. We can't have casters having an easy time in PvE. No, 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 no. We're gonna change Magic Lighthouse to be absolutely useless. We're going to front load all of that uselessness onto Magical Shield, and then we're going to buff the awakening damage, and then we're going to proceed to take Succession Wizard out back, pull down our pants, and just crap all over them. Because that's how staff users get treated. Same with Witch. You know, um, it's painful to see. So even Guild Wars 2's piss poor Elementalist design is a better mage than Pearl Abyss's Wizard Witch. Same class, different gender bull crap. So usually with mages, they're master of elements. The elements are pretty straightforward: fire, water, wind, or lightning. They usually get rolled into one, and then sometimes you throw in earth. And in Guild Wars 2's case, you get arcane as another side element. I've seen other games go with like dark as an element. They kind of specialize into like a dark element with bleeds and stuff and poisons. The first big MMORPG that I played, um, you know, what, 17, 18 years ago when I started playing MMORPGs. Last Chaos, that one. They did a little bit different. They didn't have a wizard class. They were gender locked, but they did have well, I guess they did. They basically had a female mage, and it split into wizard and witch, basically. Um, but it stayed female because technology wasn't as good back then. But the wizard was more of a elemental, like just DPS, and the witch was more like a curse, poison, bleed, disruptor, debuff thing. So there's that route too. But what the more traditional fantasy sense is more kind of like one of my favorite games that closed, Forsaken World. They basically had mages, and no, they weren't gender locked. You could be male or female mage. You had mage up until a certain level. I think it was like 30. And then talents unlocked, and you could specialize. You got fire, water, or wind, slash lightning. The lightning got cold wind, but it was all electric skills. And they break it down as like fire was damage over time. Water was control. So you got like water slash ice, and we're like freezing mages. Wind slash electric was like burst AoE, with a little bit of like damage mitigation, that kind of stuff, and a little bit of control. You could have like a knockback or slows, really big slows and mana drains. And then the fire was, like I said, damage over time, burns, that type of thing. And of course, they all had their little bit of form of control and a little bit of own way of doing damage. So fire, I think, had a spec you could spec into, like, make one of your skills silence. Wind, you got like very big slows and a little bit of mana drain. And then, of course, water was your major control, and it had a couple of ways of getting some damage. So almost every skill froze, and then you could go off of that and get, like stacks and detonate for damage, that kind of thing. But that's usually how mages in fantasy games work. Not in Pearl Abyss's world. We have split gender, male, female, female is witch, male is wizard. Yet let's give them all the same skills with a tiny bit of different effects, which doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Instead of doing a base class of mage and then male being wizard, female being witch, and giving it, actually elemental. If you're going to do that, why even have the two classes separate? Why not roll them into one? And depending on their gender, you just call them different things. That's basically how it works. Make the class the same. You don't have to design it twice instead of doing this gender-locked weirdness. Anyway, that rant being over, with the nerf on. Let me go back up to where it was, or down to where it was. Here, Magic Lighthouse was basically a taunt. The red ball, as people call it, and it taunts monsters, and then you can get back attacks. Well, they completely removed that because apparently that was overpowered, even though, Succession, that was a big thing for it, but Succession was subpar on damage anyway, and you had to jump through all these hoops with massive amounts of APM just to keep up or try and hit average, that other classes easily did. So they took that away. Now you get what? Consume MP to. Okay, so the magical shield. They loaded it on the magical shield. They increased magical shield, which is basically an MP shield. You use it and you get, instead of 25%, you now get 10%. Okay, so they nerfed that badly too. Yeah, used to, it would give you like a bubble around you, and you would get major resistances for 30 seconds. And then you would also get damage mitigation. It would use your mana to mitigate damage. Well, that's pretty much useless in the way things were set up anyway, because your mana pool cannot be big enough to actually take advantage of that. It would just drain your mana to 0, and then you'd be done anyway. Now they've reduced that to 10%, so you got nerfed there. They did increase the shield by a minute, so I guess like doubling the amount, how long it is. I guess their reasoning for that is to reduce the amount of damage received, because over a period of time. But that's not how burst damage is a thing in BDO. Most of the fights don't last that long, so that shield's going to be, that extra 30 seconds is probably going to be useless, even more so than draining all your mana. It's like it was always a last ditch effort kind of thing. So now they've changed Magic Lighthouse to basically be taken away, and they dumped it onto Spellbound Heart, which is stupid. Mana augmentation changed. It's basically, it is a passive skill that augments Spellbound Heart. So Spellbound Heart originally gives you like a little self buff where you would get like mana regen, and I think you got, it's been a little bit since I've grinded with it. I think you got some other like wasn't it like a little bit of damage or something? But anyway, you got mana regen. Well, now Magic Lighthouse is a passive skill that augments it, and when Spellbound Heart is active, you get 2,000 max MP for 1 minute when you use Magical Shield while Magic Lighthouse is summoned. So now you got to go through even more hoops. And it also recovers 50% of your MP when you use Healing Aura, which is one of your healing skills, when Magic Lighthouse is summoned. So you have to summon Magic Lighthouse, use Spellbill Heart, and then use Magical Shield, and then use Healing Aura. And that's like 5 skills whenever you could have just literally, just left things alone. Of course, Awakening continues to get buffed, and for some reason, you get 2,800 instead of 2,000. So I don't understand it. But it's just more of the same. PA has no idea how to design casters. They have no idea. I mean, it's a simple concept. The mage lore is already made for you. Fantasy MMORPGs have been doing it for 20 to 30 years now. Mages are pretty straightforward. Why change it? They were always fine. Give us a mage. Give us 3 different trees to spec down. 4 if you want to add arcane. 5 if you want to add dark, or just throw them in as a supplemental like sub tree that every tree can use. But let us spec into fire. Let us spec into water. Let us spec into lightning, but not all 3. And give different effects so you have 3 different ways of playing your mage. Let us do it. This janky pile of crap that they've thrown together and call it a wizard or a witch, either one. It doesn't matter if it's Voltaic or Hellfire or Cataclysm or Equilibrium Break. It doesn't matter what you call it. either one. So I think Wizard is done, and I think Witch is probably just as bad or worse off. I don't know why they're cranking damage and then nerfing it in PvP whenever you have other classes like Berserker that gets buffed all the time and has outrageous damage in PvP. It's not a good look. They're just sending the message that playing caster is not okay, and they might as well just open up the code base and completely delete the class. It makes it almost impossible for me to come back as a wizard main. I'm facing re-rolling to another character or uninstalling and not logging back in. That's where it puts me at. And I'm not a huge creator, but being a BDO mostly creator, it leaves me with walking away or swapping. I can't play the game the way that I want to when they've supposedly been advocating for play the game any way you want to from day one and making PvP changes because, oh no, the PvE players can't play the way they want to because of open world PvP. But the rest of us, we don't get to play the way we want to. Yeah. So, moving forward with Witch and Wizard, I see this going one of 2 ways. We're going to see a lot more things front-loaded into Magic Shield. It's going to fundamentally change the way you use Wizard, and it's going to be very reliant on mana and Magic Shield. Maybe they are doing these changes to set up to integrate Magical Shield even more. But I don't see how 1 minute would be enough. Especially when you have cooldowns and your Magic Shield is like what it's like a minute cooldown or something. I don't remember because I haven't logged in weeks. And in PvE it doesn't do a dang bit of good anyway. It was always PvP based. So when a big part of your kit is PvP based and then it's met with uselessness, because if you get hit by a high damage class and burst and you hit that shield, your mana is going to go from that extra 2,000 mana is not going to do anything for you. It's going to immediately drop your mana to 0. The resistances for 30 seconds might keep you from getting stun locked, but your mana's 0. What are you going to do? Drop Magic Lighthouse, hit Spellbound Heart, and try and heal your mana back to get 50% back? I mean, try doing that while being stuck in place to cast this stuff and still managing to get away from somebody. Like in PvB, that's not going to work, and you're not going to get away if you don't have mana to cast some of your movement skills to supplement your teleports, and you only have 2 of them. So, Dunzo. Then again, that's assuming there is PvP. But anyway, if we do see in the next few patches that they are trying to incrementally change the way the Wizard and Witch play, and to be more reliant on Magical Shield, there's going to have to be a lot more changes to make the using the shield viable. But if they do not add more and swap things around a bit more to make it viable, this patch is the last nail in the coffin for casters. It's done. I know that the last couple of days I've wanted to log in and play and make a return. Seeing these patch notes, that feeling's gone. I don't want to log in. I haven't even patched the client, and I'm probably not going to. So it's a sad state of affairs. But those are my thoughts on Wizard. If you're a Wizard, I hope you have, and you're a Wizard like me, or Witch. Sorry, if you're a Mage in BDO, I hope you saved, and you've spent most of your BDO game time on that Wizard or Witch. I hope you have weight transfers, I hope you have level transfers, and I hope you have weapon transfers, because I think it's time to swap. I think it's time to go. Pretty much time to flavor of the month, and time to put the Wizard to rest. You know, I guess there is a reason why all of the bigger streamers play Berserker. I think that's it. You know, it just keeps getting buffed. I didn't even check to see if it's in these patch notes or not. I was pretty mad over the rest of them. Oh, what do you know? We got through a patch without it. Their hardcore server is a joke from what I've seen. And, you know, there's been some other speculation that maybe they're setting Wizard Witch up to be a couple of more of classes to be in next season of their hardcore weird server thing that they're doing. Who knows? But bouncing it around that and doesn't really make sense. Oh, they fixed some issues. I think if you're a caster, it's time to move on from BDO. It's sad because it is the best sandbox that I've played currently, and to this date, life skilling is unmatched. But the fantasy elements are not there. And I tend to lean more towards the fantasy side of things when I play MMORPGs. I like the traditional fantasy setting. You know, dwarves, elves, humans, maybe some orcs and goblins, stonemen race, you know, just different things that you would see in any fantasy story, you know, all those different classes or races in terms of gameplay. Mages, archers, bow users, whatever. And you know, it's crazy that it's crazy that games that are so much older than the new ones that are coming out, and the just BDO, even older than BDO. I mean, what, it came out in what, 2016, so it's 9 years, 10 years. If you're counting 2015 for the Korea launch, a 10-year-old game, and it's still just a downgrade on a lot of things. I mean, I've asked myself over and over again, why do people like old school RuneScape so much? And that's why. I figured it out. It's simple. You know, there's progress to be made. You can work towards something, even if it is like half AFK and the same thing over and over again. It allows you to just mellow out. And given 100% effort 100% of the time burns you out very quickly. And so I realized that a lot of people have went back to old school RuneScape because it feels like home. And I guess what I feel like is that BDO is no longer home. I don't know why. Maybe it's the wizard changes. Maybe it's all of the other stupid changes that have been made recently. But that's. I think Pearl Abyss would make more money if they would put out a guide on how to speedrun a dead game. How to end your product for dummies. I'm pretty sure they would make a killing off of that because they're experts at it. I don't know. I was watching our friend Mr. Blue Squadron's video on these patch notes, and he was pretty appalled at the witch from what I saw. But I saw a comment on that video, and it said, "Yep, something along the lines of, you can't have the witch and wizard life skillers slaughtering all the sheep. We got to wage war on them, nerf them into the ground." It's basically the general idea of that. I thought that was pretty funny because I used to just only go and do sheep meat farming with my wizard. Uh, actually, I got an idea. You know, I know whose fault this is. So Pearl Abyss, they take witch and wizard, and they're basically two sides of the same coin, right? It's not a very good analogy, but they're basically the same class, just split because of gender, and they have micro differences. But fundamentally, they're pretty much the same, aside from like earth, earth lightning or earth wind, and fire water elements split across. Of course, they all get access to all of them. They have different. The awakenings have different summons, and then the way a couple of their main skills work a little bit differently. But for the most part, they're the same. And, we've known for a long time that Mr. Squadron over there mains Witch. Well, he's made Pearl Abyss so mad that now they're just going to destroy Witch and, by proxy, Wizard. They're just going to destroy them. I think it's a ploy to get back at him from Pearl Abyss because he's just crapped all over them so much. It's his fault. I blame him. I blame him. I hope he sees this. I would like to see if he reacts to this. That would be an entertaining video. But no, the fundamental issues with the overall game is that it's very hard to balance a game that has like 30 classes, and we're in a cycle of, oh no, we need money. Let's release a new class. Let's reuse content. Let's do what we can to keep the sinking ship afloat. And then they find themselves in this issue of the power creep problem, and instead of bringing certain classes up, they're trying to change things that probably don't need to be changed, and then you just have a mess. The first thing that they need to do is the PvP damage modifiers, where some classes get 110% and some classes get 80% damage depending. That's terrible. That's terrible. It's a terrible thing. To have that as a foundation, and then also try to go ahead and balance with your skills when damage is the problem to begin with. It doesn't make sense. Everybody should start on a level playing field and you balance from there. But that's not the case. They probably don't even remember those damage modifiers in PvP are still there or in place. It's stupid. But I don't know. It feels like to me Berserker was like the first class they designed. And then well, let's give this class everything. High tankiness, high HP, high mobility, high damage, uh stuns, grabs, slows, and then design everything from there. Oh, this class would be cool to have. Oh wait, it's a caster. We have to have the original classes be able to catch up and get to them. Yeah, but they already have so much movement. We don't. That's not really an issue. So let's keep nerfing other things that don't really matter. I don't know. I'm puzzled. Doesn't make sense. But I'm not happy about it. The part that bothers me the most is like it's one of the last. I can't think of any other released games. They're actively developing fantasy style stuff that have mages in it. Um, I guess Final Fantasy might, but I stay away from that. Throne of Liberty tries, but it's a weird system. Um, staff weapon versus thing. It's not really elemental mage. You basically get. It's just different. It's not traditional fantasy MMO RPG, so it's a little set up a little bit different. Um, I played staff on there, and it was just strange to me. They try to do traditional mage style skills and gameplay in terms of like staff users, but it just comes out weird. So that one doesn't really count. I went over Guild Wars 2. The Elementalist is an atrocious implementation of mages. You might as well try to play with your feet at that point. That's what it felt like every time I was playing. I mean, it was just so many things to do, and it just didn't feel like a traditional mage. Um, I don't think there's any other mainstream MMORPGs out really that do mages. So it may be time to hang up the mage hat. I don't know. It's kind of why I swapped to one of the reasons I swapped to tank in Throne of Liberty. The mage gameplay didn't feel good. It didn't feel like mages that I'm used to, and I didn't like it. I was having to hold down and charge too many skills. It was just weird um, to me. And now BDO, the wizard feels really bad. That's one of the things that was keeping me from grinding on it is it just felt really bad in the APM, the return on investment in terms of APM's attacks per minute, APM used was not good, so it just felt really bad, and so I just opted to not grind. But there was also other reasons why I didn't too. Um, my personal own issues with my wrists and hands and stuff after a while of about 25 to 30 minutes grinding with such high APMs, it feels like my wrist is in a vice and my hands cramp really bad and it just hurts. And then they ache for like a good 2 days. So I just didn't do that. But then being a content creator also turned me off of grinding because whenever you're grinding and you have gameplay, people are always like criticizing you if you're not the most efficient. And it's like, I like to sit back and chill grind. I don't like to sweat grind. I don't want to be like aiming for the highest trash. That puts me off of it very quickly. And the games are supposed to be played for fun. So I just quit doing it because it just, I got in my own head about it. I should have ignored everything and maybe played, but it's spiraling in the toilet bowl anyway. So I guess it's not that big of a loss. Um, it's in a weird place, and I don't know. There's a cat. There's a cat messing with the curtain. I don't. I don't know where to go. I don't know what to do. Content is not good, and I apologize, but I don't know what to do. I don't have a home. Let's put it that way. In terms of games, I don't have a home. My wife really likes Throne of Liberty, and it's an okay game. It's not terrible, but it's not great. It's just kind of mediocre, but it doesn't feel like home. I play a tank. I've went over that. I've got a pretty good tank build, but it has fundamental issues too. And so I'm just kind of floating around without a main MMORPG right now. I guess Throne of Liberty is kind of my main because I play it the most just to play with the wife. But when she is not here and not playing, I don't really log on there. Um, I don't I don't know where things are going. It makes me sad. I I wish direction was more clear. There's a couple of other things I want to touch on here, but I wanted to finish this thought. I see all the mage skills and stuff, and all these are awakening skills. So it doesn't really affect me too bad. A couple of them are not, but well, they are, but Succession shares them. Rooster keeps crowing in the background. It makes me miss it, but at the same time, I know that there's a whole trough of crap that we got to get through just to play, and it's when it becomes like that, it's just more detrimental to keep playing than it is to just let it go, you know? Um, my honest opinion, most of these MMORPGs, the genre is done. It's waning. It's not 100% done, but it's waning. We've been promised too many things. Ashes of Creation has been promised, but it's just not delivering. How long does it take them to develop things? Throne of Liberty was supposed to be big, but it kind of fizzled. It's not great. Um, Nothing spectacular has happened. I think the magic is kind of worn out. Uh, yes, word choice. The magic is gone because wizards are dead. um, I don't know. On Pearl Abyss's part, it's 100% their fault. It is a design choice that they made, and it was a bad one. So I touched on Last Chaos and how mages were portrayed there. They had a sorcerer, and then they had a mage. Um, Sorcerers were more of your elementalist type things. They had pets that you could summon, or they could transform into slash water magic user. And then the mages were more of a dark style with like poison and curse abilities. So they chose to split it that way, which I think Black Desert might benefit from that. Witches you think curse damage over time, more of a buffs. Power yourself up and then or put curses on and then detonate. You think more of an attrition style thing. Wizard, you think of this big nuker, like hard hitting, long cooldowns, probably some cast time, slower, but just massive AoEs and flashy skills. That's what you think of. And mages is more like an overall archetype. But I meant to throw that little thought in there um, before talking about the other games, but I forgot it and I remembered it. I don't know where we're going. I guess this isn't a big deal to Pearl Abyss because there's only like 3% of the player base or whatever it is that play actual casters anyway. you know, uh, um, I I don't know anyone that actively plays Succession Wizard that is like a content creator other than me. Um, maybe I just am out of the loop, but I don't think there's any really left. I know there were a couple of big PvPers that did Succession Wizard, but I haven't really seen many videos on Wizard or even Witch at this point. And like I said, Blue Squadron played Witch. I don't even know if he still does. I guess he does, but he's kind of branched off into other stuff, so I don't even know if he's playing on his main anymore. Um, it's hard for me to keep up with people, but I think it's done. I think they're done and gone. Reroll, put them to rest. Let's go have some funerals for our poor caster characters, and then move on. It's a sad day. You know. And Guild Wars 2 I thought was my redeeming thing, but then I played Elementalist over there, and then I just quit the game because it was bad. It was that bad. Uh, it felt that bad. So I don't know. Maybe I'm just doomed into following my bloodline. Maybe I'm supposed to be a Viking warrior and play like big axe or sword shield wielding Viking style characters. Maybe that's it. Maybe I'm not supposed to be a caster anymore. Um, I don't know. And then we see Rangers getting a bunch of buffs, kind of. I saw someone say that the crowd control off of one of their major skills was a nerf, but then you get all these cooldowns that are reduced by like 50%. I guess this is it right here. The knockdown being on PvE only. That's a pretty big nerf. And remove knockback on that too. That's pretty bad too. Anytime you lose crowd control for a PvP game, that's definitely a nerf. I don't know. Um, I guess there's a drop event going on for like the special treasure items. I guess that's what was voted on. I don't know. I'm not even really keeping up with events. This makes me mad. I wanted a male great axe wielding character. Um, I've wanted one since the beginning. Berserker has the dual axes, and it's just kind of strange to me. Or he carries around two like hand axes. No, I wanted the Guardian. I was excited for until I found out it was female back when it released because I wanted a big two-handed axe, I'm talking like a war cleaver axe, like huge broad head and just giant spin attack, huge ground slams, that kind of stuff. Charge up skills, bleeds. Um, that's what I was excited for, and then we got the Guardian, and I'm like, well, I'm done. I was a big fan of the Berserker and Terra. That's where that want comes from. I played a Berserker in Terra, and I really liked it. I did try out a couple other classes in Terra, and they were all really well done. Um, it's sad that it closed down. I guess it was too hardcore. I don't know, or maybe it was in the wrong time period. Maybe if Terra released now, it would be a little better. Of course, all this hardcore stuff, hardcore patch notes, and that white is blinding AF. We're going back up to the to the patch notes where there's some color on the screen because that white, I can't do that. It washes my eyes out and it hurts. I don't know. Those are my thoughts, my rant. I don't know what I'm gonna title it, but I guess you already have seen that by now. But I don't know. We'll go where we go. Maybe some more Throne and Liberty stuff. They changed some runes and things around, so maybe I'll do some videos on that. Who knows? I was just waiting to see if making a wizard comeback was worth it or not. I'm hoping in the next couple batches that things get balanced out and they change some things around, but I'm not. I'm not hopeful. Why they updated all of the awakening power, skill percents and increased the damage, and they didn't do that for Succession, I don't know. Succession is Wizard is behind Awakening as it is. So in PvE anyway, I don't know why they wouldn't update it, but we'll see if anything changes. I got like a couple weeks left before the 30 days anyway, so I'm not too antsy. But I wanted to touch on it and give my thoughts about what is happening over there and whether or not we need to, as if you're a mage player, whether or not we need to be alert or if we just need to walk away. And it seems like these game companies, walking away is the only language they understand. You can go post on the forums all day long about things, but they just don't care. I'll tell you what the whole genre needs. We need a US based MMO RPG traditional fantasy style that is developed and released in NA first. That's what we need. And I'm not talking about like Guild Wars 2 that is subsequently owned by NCSoft that has weird classes and terrible weird combat. I'm talking about a new US based, US developed, US released fantasy MMORPG. We need to bring the genre back and we need to stop with all these weird takes that don't work. And we need to stop with running games into the ground just for extra pennies. If you make a good product, people will buy it. You don't need to scam or coerce them into spending money. If you build it, they will come. In terms of BDO, do not come. If you know where that's from, you know where it's from. All right, I gotta end this before I get really stupid. Well, thanks for watching. You guys that are around, I appreciate all of you. And if you disagree with me, let me know. Maybe I'm being delusional. If you agree, confirmation bias is the thing, and I enjoy it. Stroke my ego, I guess. But I really don't think I'm off base here, and it really upsets me. So you guys have a good one, and I'll see you in the next one.